Hey guys, Trip here, and today I want to talk about the games that shaped you as a person. We all love video games, that's the reason we're here on this channel, but we often forget just how much they've affected our lives. Our generation grew up with video games. In a lot of ways, games for us are what movies and cartoons were to our parents. Whether we know it or not, we've been molded by the media we consumed when we were young. I want to know about the most memorable games of your youth, the games that stuck with you, the games that helped make you the person you are today. My childhood was defined by video games, but if I really had to narrow it down, there are 3 games out there that help define my personality, my tastes, and the way I think. First up is The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask. This is one of my favorite games of all time. It was one of the first games I ever played, and its mysterious nature stimulated my young mind. For those who don't know, Majora's Mask is the direct sequel to Ocarina of Time. Released in 2000 for the Nintendo 64, Majora's Mask was made in a single year, and reuses the majority of Ocarina's assets. But while Ocarina of Time was a straightforward story with a traditional fantasy setting, Majora's Mask goes off the deep end, spiraling into an acid trip of loss, mortality, war, and regret. The morose themes of the game are offset with a cartoonish sense of humor that just adds to the bizarre atmosphere of the entire game. It's pretty hard to understand how unsettling this game can be unless you played it as a child, and even then, I doubt it had the same effect on others as it did on me. How do I explain it? The whole game feels like a child's fever dream, and it's no surprise that parts of the game were inspired by the developer's stress-induced nightmares as they desperately tried to release the game within a year. What makes Majora's Mask so brilliant is the way it pushes a child outside his comfort zone, without completely pushing him off the cliff of sanity. It deals with very mature themes, challenging you to contemplate relationships and the way people treat one another. It encourages you to do your best to help others, to comfort the dying and inspire the living. You feel like a small force of hope in a world besieged by mistrust, xenophobia, greed, and fear. The game literally questions you at times, breaking the fourth wall and forcing you to consider your relationships with your loved ones and the morality of your actions. Remember, this is a game made for 7-year-olds. In a lot of ways, Majora's Mask is the perfect children's story, with an added dose of LSD. It's the kind of story that really sticks with you, the kind where you're not really sure if everything is going to be alright in the end, but it leaves you with an optimistic message that will grow with you for years to come. Instead of feeling convoluted and confusing, the story feels mysterious and intriguing. As a kid, I wanted to learn more about what was going on. It always felt like there was a deeper story just outside my reach. Where did all these temples come from? Who is the mask salesman? For that matter, just who or what is Majora? I remember my mind going into creative overdrive as I came up with all sorts of theories and ideas about the world and its history. Majora's Mask set the stage for the type of person I'd become. It defined the way my mind works to this day. Above all, I can honestly say that this game made me a more creative person. So let's lighten the mood a bit. This next game is a bit more obscure, but no less important to me. Does anyone remember Jet Set Radio Future? No, not Jet Set Radio. I'm talking about its official sequel. Jet Set Radio Future was released in 2002 as a launch title for the original Xbox. It came packaged free with my Xbox, and I had no idea what to expect from it. Jet Set Radio Future is a bit hard to describe, but bear with me. It centers around a futuristic Tokyo, ruled by a corrupt police force and its corporate puppet masters. The only thing that can bring freedom back to the streets are teenage rollerblading gangsters who fight authority with the power of graffiti and dancing. Does that sound absolutely insane to you? Well, welcome to Jet Set Radio Future. This is one of my favorite games of all time. The world feels huge, it's full of beautiful scenery and wacky character designs. The art direction is garish, colorful, and looks like something out of a comic book. Everyone you meet is unique and interesting. There's so much to discover and unlock, and the tone of the game really brings out the anarchic teen in you as you fight the establishment. It's the sort of game that just makes me want to rage against the machine, start a fucking revolution or something. But then I remember I'm a nerd whose worst crimes include jaywalking, and decided to turn up my music a little too loud instead. It also has one of my favorite ending sequences of any game, jumping the shark in such a ridiculous and bizarre way. I won't spoil it here, but you can look it up. But by far, the most memorable thing about this game is its music. Anyone who's checked out my Google Plus page already knows I have a very broad, eclectic taste when it comes to music. You can blame that on JSRF. The music blends genres together like rock, electronica, and hip-hop, resulting in tracks that are downright weird but oddly endearing. It really adds to the futuristic, offbeat vibe of the game. This game defined my tastes when it comes to art and music. It's the reason I love games with bizarre stories and tones. It's the reason I've always preferred bright, colorful worlds over gray, gritty wastelands. It's the reason I have such a strange taste in music. If it weren't for this game, I'd be a much more boring person. Unfortunately, I haven't played it in over a decade. I let my cousins borrow it one day and never saw it again. It's a shame too, because unlike the original Jet Set Radio, the sequel has never been re-released in any way. I'd buy a copy off eBay, but my Xbox is miles away back at home and I'm not even sure it still works. If you do manage to find a copy and have an Xbox that can play it, I can't recommend it enough. I'm not mincing words when I say it's one of the greatest games I've ever played in my life. No other game has managed to capture the same spirit or put me in the same mood as Jet Set Radio Future. This last game may be a bit obvious, as I've mentioned it on the show a few times. Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic. When I was about 8 or 9 years old, my grandmother came home with a new game for me. Apparently, the man at the cash register recommended it, and she decided to buy it for me as a surprise. I'd never heard of this game before, but I was a major Star Wars fan, so I decided to give it a go. It was my first introduction to role-playing games, and it blew me away. I can make my own character, I can make choices. I know games like this have existed forever, but at the time, I had no idea this was even possible. For the first time, I actually felt responsible for my character and his actions. Every choice had weight to it, every person felt real. As far as I was concerned, no innovation could ever top the ability to make my own character and make my own decisions. This was also my first experience with any sort of expanded universe. Before this, I never considered the greater lore or context of a story. All of a sudden, I was thrown into a world much larger than myself, with a history spanning hundreds of thousands of years. I had no idea there was so much to the Star Wars universe, let alone enough to set a game 4,000 years before the movies. This game made me realize that a story can be much more than a simple narrative, that you can create entire galaxies with the power of a video game. It's hard to put into words the impact that has on a 9-year-old. This game was more than a shiny new toy to me. It was the real start of my love of video games, when I realized what they were truly capable of. Put simply, if it weren't for this game, this channel wouldn't exist. I wouldn't exist. I'd probably be working in an office somewhere instead of doing what I really love, making nerdy videos for you guys. I would be a completely different human being if not for these 3 games. What about you? What games made you who you are? What games are more important to you than any others? Let us know in the comments. But yeah, that's just something that was on my mind. Hey guys, Trip here. If you liked that video, why not watch some more? I do a lot of videos like this, so if you like what you saw, why not click the like button and subscribe? You can also follow me on Twitter and Google Plus to stay up to date with the channel, get links to music I like, and other cool stuff. Oh, and I finally finished launching my Patreon. I'll do a full video on this soon, but in the meantime, why not check it out? Any pledge you make means a lot to me and helps me make the channel even better. I'll leave links to my Google+, Twitter, and Patreon in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.